Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to go ahead and cover what changed in the recent patch notes that they just put out for April 6th. So this is a brand new patch. You don't really need to download anything. You just log in. It says you require update. You'll go ahead and update, and then these changes will take effect. So pretty much what they've done is they've nerfed the AUG and the FFAR, and then they've fixed a few different attachments. I've already gone through, tested a bunch of stuff to find out what actually changed in these scenarios. There are probably other hidden changes that we won't know about because they didn't mention them. So that's what we'll go ahead and talk about. If you do enjoy the video, learn something new, please do me a favor, hit the like button. And if you're brand new, want to find your way back for more Call of Duty content, double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. So they actually made a few different changes. You can see right here for the tactical rifle Charlie. I don't know why they don't just say AUG when they're saying the FFAR here. Why don't they say assault rifle Charlie or whatever the heck? I don't know. I don't get it. But they have increased the recoil. It is much harder to use, but overall, at the end of the day, they did not change the damage values or the rate of fire. It's still going to have the lethality if the people do manage to land the shots. When it comes to FFAR, they did decrease the ADS speed. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Rear grips, now they fixed the ones that said, hey, you know what, increase your ADS speed, but it was actually working in backwards. So half the rear grips worked and half don't. I'm going to go ahead and show you the testing on that. Groza, there was a bug that we just talked about in a previous video where the damage values were pretty much infinite for that first damage range. There was no damage drop off. They have added a damage drop off. Ember sighting, they fixed the bug with that. They fixed the bug with the salvo fast mags, which we were already aware of with the FFAR and the M16. That's when they did that first nerf to the FFAR that made it a little bit slower. It's even slower than that. Now the Pellington 703 wrap suppressor actually says what it does instead of having the opposite of what it does. It was actually still helping bullet velocity and range. Let's go ahead and get into some of the testing. So I've gone through and I tested a lot of this stuff. What I did want to check is to see if anything else was nerfed on the FFAR, and I can assure you that everything else is pretty much the same. I went through, tested the damage values. That's what I'm doing in these individual clips. I'm in basically a private match looking at shooting a bot, look at the damage, shoot a bot, look at the damage, and I pretty much went through, got the values. You can see when I look at the damage. So damage values the same on the FFAR. I also looked at the fire rate, no change there. So it's actually matching what we're seeing there. Range right around that 36 meters. So no changes when it comes to that. Then when it comes to the Groza, they did change it up quite a bit. Pretty much it still gives you that 2 or 3, depending on what body part you hit at range. It does change up a little bit, but overall it's going to do a little bit more damage, but that range is nerfed. You're probably getting like a 25 meters instead of around 31, what it was previously. So it actually has a damage drop off, and it's a little bit closer because it does nerf the effective damage range, which is essentially just range, just different wording. And then it still does the extra damage values for those. So it won't change much on the close range. It's essentially going to work the exact same as it was before, but after 25 meters, it has a drop off. So I think that's going to take it out of where people felt like it was broken, especially at range. You're not going to really be able to reach those optimum TTKs that we talked about in the previous Groza video. So that's kind of how that works. 25 meter damage drop off, and then it does basically act like the regular Groza, but with 2 extra damage, which is mostly negligible in a lot of these cases. It just ends up doing the same thing where you have to land chest shots to get the lower TTK, but less of them. So that's going to bring us to the rear grips, and I had to go ahead and read through, and I just went through and retested each of them for the FFAR since the ADS was nerfed. Before this update, we actually had an ADS of 334, so it was right there. This should come up to 334, and then pretty much this is how I do the testing. I mount up and see when that thing actually fully ADSs. And you can see the screen stops moving right around halfway between 384 and 400. So let's call that 392 or something like that. So right around there. It's not a huge difference. 400 milliseconds. It's going to be a lot slower, approximately 60 milliseconds slower. So that is a huge nerf. But if you're already ADS and you're strafing and gliding across the screen, not going to be really a huge difference. It just gets you when you cut off guard to ADS. That's where it's definitely going to be noticeable. It's going to be much slower. So that's that one. Let's go ahead and look at the speed grip. So the speed grip is still doing what it's supposed to. It will speed up the ADS by about 8% for the FFAR. And you can see it's fully zoomed in right there at 336. And that's pretty much how that one works. So pretty straightforward. The drop shot, it's looking like it's only doing about 2% because it ends up landing up on the same frame. So mostly negligible. It just doesn't give as good of an ADS benefit. Right here, you can see right around 384. So about a half a frame difference between the base FFAR ADS speed, or almost no difference. I'd have to record at a higher frame rate to tell the difference, which means it's so negligible. I wouldn't really worry about that one. If we go into the jungle, you can see that the jungle does ADS actually quite a bit faster at 367. That's kind of where it's fully ADS, which again is an 8% difference. So that's kind of in line with the basic speed rep. So you can kind of pick and choose between those two. Obviously, the jungle rep is going to have a sprint to fire penalty of about 5%, which I also tested. So it will impact your sprint to fire negatively. So it kind of demeans, like takes away from any reason to actually use that one over just the basic speed rep. If we go to the serpent still does a pretty good job at ADSing. You can see that we get there right around 350 milliseconds. 350 milliseconds is an improvement of about 12.5%, which is definitely the way to go, most likely, in my opinion. It will hurt your sprint to fire by about 11%. So that is a, big knock there. And then that brings us to the last and final one, which is the elastic wrap. And the airborne elastic, that one actually will speed it up as well. About 342 milliseconds, kind of halfway between these two frames here. So I just split the difference, which is about a 14%, 15% improvement to your ADS speed. So that one's going to be the best for improving ADS speed. Sprint to fire is a little bit slower, about 5% difference. I also went and looked at strafe speed. So here's base strafe speeds. I checked the various distance. It's pretty slow. And I ended up with an elastic airborne at 6.6 seconds to cover 13 meters. We did the same thing for the base. And it ended up being about 2% difference. So in terms of the strafe speed, I really wouldn't make a big deal about that one, because obviously if if you're dropping the front grip, it's going to help you out. Maybe you put on the Raider stock, you're still going to have decent strafe speed. That's not really going to be the issue, but that will help you with the ADS speed with a marginal difference to your sprint to fire, which kind of gets canceled out by the Raider stock. So there are a lot of little changes there. But they have fixed all of the rear grips, which is what a lot of people kind of wanted from the beginning. Obviously, they did half of them in the previous update. Somehow the other half slipped through the cracks. But now they all pretty much do what they say, which is a good thing. So this doesn't really change much in terms of the meta builds. We're probably going to see the AUG drop off and not really see as many people use that because of that recoil. It's going to be very inconsistent as people get a little bit further away, unless you're just mounted. But the odds of you getting good mounting spots in every gunfight was too small, at least in my opinion. I think most people are going to swap over to the M16. Pretty much the same build. FFAR, pretty much nothing changes, except for instead of maybe running the serpent wrap, maybe run the airborne elastic to get even faster ADS speed. And you still have the Raider stock for the movement. So I think overall the FFAR build will probably be this build now, at least until people decide to switch over to SMGs, which will hopefully take over as a mobility option for close range, even though nothing changed with the TTK. Groza, I think it's pretty much not even almost worth using at this point, because they basically took away what made it good or even viable. Even at the way it is now, the FFAR is still going to be better than the Groza, at least in terms of consistency and having the lower TTK. So those are the changes today. And maybe even for snipers, you can go ahead and run the airborne elastic, and you're going to be able to take advantage of that better ADS speed. Hopefully you did enjoy the video, learned something new. If you did, please do me a favor, hit the like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, double check, make sure you are subscribed. Appreciate you supporting the content. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.